Good morning. Good morning. I'm Debbie Ryan, your celebration leader this morning. We welcome all of you and those joining us from home to Unity of Northwest Indiana. You are here by divine appointment. Unity is a global, inclusive, spiritual community. We offer practical, uplifting resources to help people of all faiths apply positive spiritual principles in their lives. Our philosophy of love, acceptance, and peace is based on the teachings of Jesus and the power of prayer.
Good morning. Good morning. So I'm speaking on grace today, God's grace. And sometimes we have to give each other grace, especially in relationships. You know how the ego will want to argue or be right? Well, I have a joke for you that addresses how grace can work. So this is called How to Stay Married. A man and a woman had been married for more than 60 years, and they shared everything. They had kept no secrets from each other, except that the woman had a shoebox in the top of her closet that she had cautioned her husband never to open or to ask about. All through the years, he never thought about the box, but one day, the woman got very sick and the doctor said she would not recover. So the husband, trying to sort through their affairs, took down the shoebox and took it to his wife's bedside. She agreed that it was time that he should know what was in the box. When he opened it, he found 2 crocheted dolls and a stack of money totaling $50,000. And he asked her about the contents. She said, when we were to be married, my grandmother told me the secret of a happy marriage is to never argue. And she told me that if I ever got angry with you, I should just keep quiet and crochet a doll. The little old man was so moved, he had to fight back tears. Only 2 precious dolls were in the box, and she had only been angry with him 2 times in all those years of living and loving. He almost burst with happiness. Some of you know this one. Honey, he said, that explains the dolls, but what about all of this money? Where did that come from? Oh, that, she said, that's the money I made from selling the dolls. I don't know if you knew that one. It was love, but it was worth it at the end, right? So she was extending him grace by crocheting the dolls instead of arguing. Because we know that when we argue, it's usually the ego that just wants to be right, right? So let's take a moment to get settled as we begin our singing bowl. I invite you to simply take a deep breath and relax. And the Spirit of God has drawn each of us here today, even through challenges with construction and whatever you may be going through. We have gathered here together because though we can walk this journey alone, it is far better together. So as we begin, return within, relax in God's grace, God's love and mercy, God's infinite blessings. We begin.
us stand and sing our opening song that can be found on the bottom screen, Amazing Grace.
We focus our energy on the powerful vision we hold as truth for our world. So together we proclaim our vision for the world.
Centered in God, we celebrate a world of love, peace, and abundance for all creation.
And we affirm with mind, heart, and spirit our mission as Unity of Northwest Indiana.
We are a dynamic spiritual community expressing universal principles and empowering transformation.
And we proclaim our building our dream prayer with zeal.
Centered in God, we affirm the success, prosperity, and growth of Unity of Northwest Indiana.
And our unity principle today is number 1.
God is all there is and present everywhere.
Please be seated. The daily word for today, Sunday, July 28th, 2024, is alive. Divine life flows through me. Sometimes, when life seems filled with obligations and routine, I may feel as though I am merely existing, moving from one task to the next, without sparkle or energy. Today, I remind myself I am alive, vitally, radiantly, joyfully alive. My life is what I choose to make it. Through my positive attitude and understanding myself as a spiritual being, I realize there is so much more to life than the things I must attend to. I will continue to maintain my daily life and respond to the things that need my attention. But now, I will meet life with the energy and verve of divine life, which is flowing through me and animating me no matter what I am doing. I affirm I am a divine being, wondrously and magnificently alive. Amen. And from Luke chapter 20, verse 38. Now he is God, not of the dead, but of the living, for to him all of them are alive.
During our meditation this morning, I'm going to be using what I call a mantra, or a phrase from Julian of Norwich, who was an English mystic and theologian. And the phrase, I think, for me, helps me get into an awareness of grace. And it's very simple, because we know our minds will go in all directions and worry and be concerned. But the phrase is, all is well, and all manner of things will be well. It's all shall be well. It's all shall be well, all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well. Breathe deeply, moving into the awareness of the presence of God right here, right now, within you and all around you. It's God's grace that the breath moves through us, whether we are aware of it or not. It's God's grace that all the systems, organs, tissues, muscles of your body are doing what they need to do at this moment without our awareness or attention. To draw our awareness to our heart. We open our hearts to God's grace, God's infinite blessings, unfathomable love. And if there's anything or anyone you're concerned about, we put it on the altar of our heart to release to God. God works in and through us and in and through all with divine order and grace. And as we breathe deeply, we relax on an even deeper level. And we let go. And we surrender. And in the depths of our hearts, we know all shall be well. All shall be well. And all manner of things shall be well. Those words are infused with our faith and grace. So as we move into the stillness, take those words with you. All shall be well. All shall be well. And all manner of things shall be well.
The good news for today is from John chapter 1, verses 9 and 14 through 17. The true light, which enlightens everyone, was coming into the world, and the Word became flesh and lived among us, full of grace and truth. And from this fullness we have all received grace upon grace. The law was given through Moses. Grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. And from Fillmore Study Bible, page 262, the real saving, redeeming, transforming power came to man through the work that Jesus did in establishing a new and higher consciousness for the human race. We can enter into this consciousness by faith and by means of the inner spirit of the law that Jesus taught and practiced. And from 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 9, Jesus speaking, "My grace is sufficient for thee, for my power is made perfect in weakness." And from A Course in Miracles, spirit is in a state of grace forever. Your reality is only spirit. Therefore, you are in a state of grace forever. This is proclaimed in the spirit of truth and love. Amen.
You are in a state of grace forever. Isn't that beautiful? So, those words, all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well, were some of the most famous, well-known words of Julian of Norwich. She was an English mystic and theologian, and what's called an anchoress. And an anchoress is someone, particularly a female, who goes apart from secular society to live a life of prayer. And her writings were known as the revelations of divine love. The revelations of divine love. And her writings are the earliest surviving English language works of a woman. She lived back in the mid-1300s to the 1400s, and her words have become sort of immortalized because I think they speak to our human need to know that all shall be well, right? And if you think about your life, and we've all gone through so many things, and at times we maybe didn't think we were going to make it through, or we didn't know how things would unfold, but God brought us through everything. Is there anything that God has not brought us through? So we can take heart and know that no matter where our minds may be going with worry or concern or anxiety or stress, that all shall be well because we are filled and surrounded in grace. We are in a state of grace. So grace is one of my favorite things to talk about, but it's also one of the most challenging because it's such a beautiful concept, and to try to put it into words can be challenging. I once said to Keith something like, one time when I was teaching the grace class, when some of you know I've taken the grace class, and I said something like, when it comes to grace, I become speechless. And he goes, well, that's grace. He's always teasing me about talking so much. But one of the definitions of grace is unmerited blessings, unmerited, unearned blessings. That it's something that's already given to us, to everyone in fullness, and that we live by grace. And so we can see that we've been held by grace if we look back at our life and see certain things. And the idea of grace is unmerited, unearned, is powerful because so much of our religious teaching is, if you do this, God will approve of you. If you do that, God will love you. At least that's the way I grew up, with that kind of theology that the good in your life is earned, and anything that you have has to be earned. You don't just get it for free. So I remember, I heard you talk about the God of the scorecard and God keeping score on what we were doing all the time, and whether we were being good kids or bad kids or fighting with our brothers and sisters or not doing the dishes or whatever. So the whole idea of grace explodes that whole concept, that whole theology, because grace is freely given and we are being held in that grace, and it's always active in our lives. And that was never taught when I was growing up, what God's grace was. And in fact, if it were taught, it would probably say, well, here's what you have to do to earn God's grace. And when I came into Unity and took the first grace class and did the readings on grace that were part of the syllabus, it just was completely different than anything I had understood. And I'm very grateful to have a teacher, a mentor, who went into prayer and was told by Spirit that her whole ministry was supposed to be about teaching grace, God's grace. And if you want to know, in particular in the Bible, the book of John is the book of grace because it's the book of love. And so grace is that unmerited blessings that we can think about. How much has your life been blessed? And did you make it all happen? Did you think it into being? Did you affirm it into being? Did you vision board it into being? Those are good tools to use, but grace goes beyond that. It's a relaxing and letting go and knowing that all things are unfolding as they should. Even though our mind will tell us, no, it's supposed to be like this, and we have our to-do list for God, right? And yet, when our prayer can be, thy will be done, and I recognize grace and I call upon the grace in this experience, it's amazing what can happen. So, Eric Butterworth describes grace like this. Grace explains the inadequacy of the idea of karma, the endless cycle of cause and effect. You know, sometimes we got into that in Unity. Well, what's in your consciousness that would happen? Grace explains the inadequacy of the idea of karma, the endless cycle of cause and effect. It is true that as you sow, so do you reap. Yet, God seeks to express fully through you and as you, so that you never fully reap the harvest of your error. That's grace. And you always reap more good than you sow. So we never completely reap the harvest of our error. And our error may be error thinking. It's a form of sin. And error thinking is living out of fear, projecting fear and negativity onto the future, worry, those things that we tend to do. So grace is the healing for that. Grace is recognizing my mind might conjure up all sorts of fearful things, right? Once or twice. And sometimes we have one that we're always worried about, whether it's your children or a loved one who's sick or your future or your finances. There's like this worry playing in the background, but we don't have to think it away. We can simply realize we're not going to reap the harvest of our error thinking, the fullness of that, or even we're not going to reap the things that we've done out of our own either unconsciousness or our own ego. Because we've all done things, you've heard me say this a million times, we've all said and done things that we're not proud of. And yet, we were still loved. And we were still held in grace. And we live in this grace. So we never fully reap the harvest of our error, and you always reap more good than you sow. So we've sown a lot of good in life, but the good that you've received has far exceeded that, wouldn't you say? As much good as you've done, that's wonderful. And we want to continue to bring good into the world, bring love into the world, serve in the world. But the blessings that we already have received exceed that, right? This is yes. Am I waking you guys up this morning? So in John, book of John, chapter 1, verse 9, and then also 14, verses 14 through 17, describes that the consciousness of the Christ through Jesus coming into the world. The Christ has always been here, but coming in through Jesus, we began to awaken to the Christ within us as human beings. The true light, which enlightens everyone, was coming into the world, and the Word became flesh and lived among us, full of grace and truth. Love that. So Jesus, another way you could say that, brought grace or love into the world. And from this fullness, we have all received grace upon grace. The law was given through Moses. We know the commandments, the law, the thou shalt nots. They have their place, right? And Jesus always said, you have heard it said, but I say unto you. So he wasn't just repeating the law. The law was given through Moses. Grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. So what this says is Jesus brought a whole different consciousness into the world because he was awake to the Christ within him. And when any one of us is awake to the Christ within us, we are bringing that into the world. We are bringing more grace into the world. And one of the things I love is from 2 Corinthians, my grace is sufficient for thee. So we all have enough grace. We have more than enough. And I love this line, and my power is made perfect in weakness. Not my power is made perfect when you measure up. Not my power is made perfect when you pray hard enough. But my power, the power of the Christ, is made perfect when we have exhausted our human efforts. When we've gone beyond the intellect and said, God, I don't know what to do about this. I don't know how to figure this out. I'm worried, I'm concerned. I don't know what's going to happen. And we completely surrender and let go. And then we can begin to feel the grace that's there. And it can show up as comfort or peace or an inner guidance or wisdom or angels in your life in some form. I want to share a couple of ways that I've experienced grace in my life. Actually, there's been so many. I could never list them all. Let me make sure I get them. So one of the ways I see grace show up in my life is when, as a young woman traveling, commuting back and forth from Oak Park to Chicago, I had a paralyzing fear of my car breaking down. And so I would pray all the way home and all the way to work, and because I was a young single woman, I didn't know what to do to fix a car. There were no cell phones back then. You've heard me talk about them. And one day, it was dark, getting dark, I was leaving work and I was driving and, white knuckling it to get home because I was in angst about this, and I did this every day because I didn't have unity back then. And I didn't know about grace, and I didn't know about faith, really. And so I was in this clutch of fear, and guess what? My car broke down. And I was anxious because, who do you trust on the highway? Strangers, right? Well, this gentleman, an older gentleman, pulled up in front of my car and got out, and I'm like, and there was, like I said, no cell phone back then to call. And he said, can I help you? And I didn't even know what to do. And he said, by the way, I'm a minister. And turns out he took me home, and he was both a minister in a church and a prison minister. And he opened his trunk and gave me his book. It was all about God's faith, God's grace, God's putting your life in God's hand, basically. And that was just one simple way. So the need was safety and protection and a safe way home. And God's grace showed up as a human being. Think about that. You've had grace people in your life that showed up for you. I remember grace, and I've shared this, so I won't go into the details of it, but grace showed up for me when I was 19 years old and on the edge of taking my own life, and literally just about to step over the edge when I heard that inner voice that said, no, this is not the plans I have for you. There's nobody, the person that I was anxious about, worried about, there's nobody whose life is worth yours. And I was saved by grace. That's why I say grace is a saving grace, because it saves us from our own error, our own fear, our own angst, the things that we would do to hurt ourselves or others. Another time, I remember going through the stress of seminary, working full-time, going to school full-time, being exhausted. And one of the saving grace things with that is I was working at Silent Unity, so I was praying for 8 hours a day. That helped. But I'd have to leave work at 11 o'clock at night and go work on my homework till 1 in the morning, had a talk due every day at 7 a.m. So I was exhausted one time and ran out of money, didn't have any money, and was anxious about that, anxious about school, anxious about everything, and totally stressed out. And I went into the prayer room, the Fillmore prayer chapel, and I just surrendered it all to God. And I said, I don't know what to do. I don't know if I can even make it through class today. And I closed my eyes, and I saw an image of someone being held. It was almost like a sepia tone, a young person being held, being carried. And when I looked up who was carrying them, it was Jesus. And when I looked at the person, it was me. And I was just carried, and I walked out of that chapel a little bit lighter, a little bit sane, a little bit more relieved. And one of the deans was coming out the door, and she pulled me in, and she said, "You're just the person I'm looking for." And I said, "Why? What did I do?" And she said, "Come in my office." And she sat down, and I, to this day, don't know how she could know this, but she seemed to be able to do this with students. I think she just was well tuned in, and she handed me a check for $800. And I just bawled. And I said, "What is this for? What did I do to earn this?" And she said, "The churches send money to the ministerial school, and I can distribute it any way we want." And she said, "You came to me. You came to me in prayer, and I was that spirit who leads us. And here you were, here you are." So that was grace, showing up as supply when I needed it, showing up as a caring, safe person when I needed it, showing up in endless ways. And if you look back on your life, you will see where something happened that took care of whatever the situation was. And all of us live by grace, because we're also not only receiving grace, but we are the channel for grace for others. So how can we be grace for others? Because we know people have been grace for us when we've said or done something and they love us anyway, right? Or we said or done something and been mean or critical of someone, and they overlook it and still are our friend or partner, whatever that is. And so we've all lived by grace. So some of the ways that we can be grace unto others is to release our criticisms and judgments, both of ourselves and others, because those have never served anyone, right? They're corrosive to us when we're in that frame of mind. Another huge way that we experience grace and our grace to others and really unto ourselves is forgiveness. Forgiveness. Not holding anyone to the past. The past might have been yesterday or an hour ago, but not holding anyone to their error, maybe, or their, what we consider mistake or betrayal, whatever it is, but to come into a state of forgiveness. Jesus certainly taught grace through forgiveness. And we receive the first experience of grace when we do that, because we're freed up. We can also experience grace through intuition, tuning into this wisdom and guidance that's right there within us as the Christ, because that will help our error thinking and our wrong decisions, right? You know, they say the start of every relationship, all the red flags are there. We just tune them out. But, and the red flags might not be something that this is wrong with this person, but it could be like, oh, I need to just be mindful, or this might be an issue down the road. And by the way, we're always waving our red flags too. We just don't see them. But it's a way of tuning into that before we do anything, tuning in and asking Spirit to guide us. And knowing Spirit is guiding us, but we just need to tune into that. So we can both be grace unto each other and to share the grace that already is surrounding us and filling us. So today I invite you to have as your mantra, if you ever worry about anything this week, or wondering how something's going to turn out, or concerned about someone, to take those beautiful words of Julian of Norwich. All shall be well. All shall be well. And all manner of things shall be well. Let's say it together. All shall be well. All shall be well. And all manner of things shall be well. Let that be your mantra this week. God bless you. Actually, grace can be not having any expectations and not expecting any gratitude. That's grace that we give ourselves. So it's time for our offering. And by the way, thank you for making the extra effort to be here, even though we've been dealing with on-the-moment construction issues. And but you didn't let that happen. So let's take a moment to recognize the grace pouring into our lives through supply. How we all have more than we need. If we think about it, we do have all more than we need. And if there is anything we need, it is more of an awareness of the Christ, more an expression of the Christ. So as we hold our offerings in our hands or in our hearts, you are being grace unto this community. Together we bless our offering. I love through me, the blessings and multiplies, all that I am, all that I give, all that I receive. I give it all, and I receive it all. Thank you, God. And send our love and energy to these tithes and offerings that have been given in love and that we receive in grace. We ask and affirm for the wisdom and guidance of God to send forth these tithes collectively to do the highest and best work that we can share in the world. And we know that they come back to us so we can continue to do the highest and best work at Unity of Northwest Indiana. We give thanks for our tremendous blessings. We send off this offering with gratitude and love and grace. Amen.
have a few announcements this morning. Mark your calendars. Our outdoor service on the property is scheduled for Sunday, August 11th at 10 a.m., weather permitting. Following the service, we hope you will stay and join us for Unity Bingo, sponsored by our men's group, and a light lunch of hot dogs and chips, both vegetarian style and meat. Right. And bring your bingo dollars and join us for some fun. Upcoming meetings. The newly forming nominating team meets briefly today after service. The Spiritual Social Action Team meets Wednesday, August 14th at 2 p.m. And the Board of Trustees and Building Our Dream Team will meet Sunday, August 18th at 11:45. The Unity Book Club. The next meeting of this group is scheduled to meet on the property, weather permitting, Thursday, August 15th, discussing Eric Butterworth's book, Discover the Power Within You. Copies of the book are available for purchase at the welcome table. Please sign up if you plan to attend. Fall Fest update, a topic near and dear to my heart. Plans are moving full steam ahead, and we are happy to announce our raffle is ready to launch. Yay! Tickets will be mailed as they were last year, but we also have additional tickets available at the welcome table to sell to your family and friends. Let's make this year an even bigger success.
We put together packets of 10
We did.
for you to take.
We did. And we are here to pray with you. Our Unity Prayer Chaplains available to pray with you today after service are Della Lovick and myself, Debbie. And Arthur's prompting me to make an announcement that many times, especially on Sunday mornings, if you see a robocall, I'm probably just not calling you. I'm probably leaving a message of something. So if you weren't able to answer it right away, hopefully there's a voicemail on your voicemail. So, because sometimes I can't answer the phone quick enough to talk to the people that are calling me. It's like, I better hang up.
Now, if your caller ID says Unity in the morning on Sunday morning, 99.999% chance it's a robocall.
Unless I need coffee or something, and then you never know. I'd probably wait for you to answer in that case.
And if Debbie has to call you back and repeat the whole robocall, you definitely need to bring her a coffee. Before we bless our children, I just want to point out there's a handout on the table that is Unity Outreach. This comes from Unity Worldwide and Unity World Headquarters, rather. And it just tells you some of the updates on things coming out and some of the resources and books that are available, pamphlets through Unity. Okay, let's bless our kiddos. Look at this. Oh, they're beautiful. With God, all things are possible. Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, and it's got a rainbow and a cross on the back. Very beautiful. Thank you. Oh, that's adorable. So let's stand to bless our children. And we are blessing all children all over the world. And think about the energy in your blessings as we bless the children, the energy in the words, the beautiful words that Sheila has written, going into these children and surrounding them throughout this week. Together. As a child of God, we pray you'll always shine bright. We affirm you'll be guided by your inner